Yesterday, if you were watching the news, following the news as we were doing our show, it would be the Attorney General Barr that was getting blasted by House Democrats. I want to play you a little bit of that audio from what took place yesterday, and then we will talk about it. This was a really interesting exchange. Representative Jayapal in Washington, who happens to be a Democrat, asked Barr why he was so aggressive towards some of these BLM protests, but not armed extremists who support Donald Trump. I want you to listen to this, and then we'll discuss it. Here it is.
Protesters swarmed the Michigan Capitol carrying guns, some with swastikas, Confederate flags, and one even with a dark-haired doll with a noose around its neck. Are you aware that these protesters called for the governor to be lynched, shot, and beheaded?
No.
You're not aware of that?
I was not aware of it.
Major protests in Michigan. You're the Attorney General, and you didn't know that the protesters called for the governor to be lynched, shot, and beheaded. So obviously you couldn't be concerned about that.
Well, there are a lot of protests around the United States, and on June 1st, I was worried about the District of Columbia, which is federal.
Okay, so that exchange went on for a little bit, and what she was continuing to say was that he seems to be engaged in anything anti-Trump. But when it comes to pro-Trumpers,
she actually called him a racist, basically at the end, Brian.
I didn't hear that.
She accused him of sending federal troops out to Portland because it was Black Lives Matter and people of color that were protesting at the federal courthouse.
I don't know if that's true or not, but here's what I will say: the fact that the Attorney General, in the most important AG seat in the land, really, says that he was not aware of the threats that were taken towards the governor of Michigan, I find extremely problematic. Do you find that problematic at all, that he wasn't even aware of it? Forget about him not acting on it.
Well, I mean, first of all, Brian, that's not his jurisdiction. He is no, seriously. There's a major difference here that is being taken out of context. His jurisdiction is federal property. The federal courthouse is federal property in Portland. The Michigan State Capitol is not. In Portland, you can't have open carry. In Michigan, it's an open carry state.
It's not just about open carry.
In Portland, there was a lot of damage and a lot of violence done. In Michigan, there was none whatsoever.
Okay.
They walked into, now granted, were they armed? Yes, as they should be, as they can be by law, but they were in a public property there. They didn't cause any damage. I guarantee.
Public or private?
No, it's not.
Public or, hold on.
You're not letting me. No, there is a major difference there.
Okay, so public or private.
And then also, when she accused him of being racially biased, most of the people that are getting arrested in Portland right now are Caucasian. They are Caucasian, either part of Antifa or some type of terrorist organization.
Okay, but let me be clear.
That's who's. I actually saw a video 2 days ago where someone, and he actually got arrested for this, he threw an IED over the fence.
Nobody
was
defending
arrested.
violence.
No. What I'm saying is this woman.
What are you saying?
She painted a totally ridiculous picture because the situations are not even close to the same.
Okay, so let me just explain one thing here. By the way, there's not one Democrat yesterday that was condoning violence, so let's just throw that out the window. So let me explain this. This is very, very important.
Brian, they were denying
Let me just finish. Let me just finish. Nobody denied that there was no violence in these protests. That's factually inaccurate. And if you can find otherwise, please let me know. Not one Democrat said that there was no violence at any of these BLM protests. So let's be factually accurate on that. So here's the thing. This wasn't just about people with guns that weren't breaking any laws. She said it herself. There were people making threats to the life of the governor of Michigan, whether that's public property or private property. The Attorney General, the United States of America, should probably know if there are threats being made to a governor in the United States of America. He said he was not aware. We're not even talking about the people with guns that were trying to intimidate others walking down in those steps and trying to break down a door to walk into the governor's office. We're not even talking about that. We're talking about some of those people, not all of them, just like I wouldn't say all the people in the BLM protest are violent. Not all the people in Michigan were violent. Some of them were. Some of those people were threatening the life of the governor. Now, what do you think would have happened if, for example, some Democrats or some protesters We're threatening the life of a Republican governor in the United States. The point I'm trying to make is this. It doesn't matter whether you're...
I really don't know, Brian. I have no idea.
Okay, well, here's
that's a state issue. That's state jurisdiction.
It's a state issue, but we can bring troops in anywhere, and it's not a state issue.
He actually tried to answer that, and we left that out. But the entire time, by the way, in that hearing, they were asking him a question, and then when he tried to respond, they would say, "Reclaiming my time." It was an absolute embarrassment.
So first of all,
it was a giant. I mean, it was a kick in the nuts, in my opinion, for the Democratic Party. I think yesterday the Democrats lost the election. Brian, I'm not joking.
Well, I think
it was absolutely disgusting the way that Jerry Nadler was treating Barr, and everyone in the House Judiciary Committee was treating Barr yesterday. They would literally they would ask him a question, they would accuse him of something, and like they would basically mass rage text him, and then when he tried to respond, they would block him before he could respond. It was very childish. It was very immature. It was honestly extremely unprofessional.
So let me explain.
But
or not.
William Barr attempted to say, by the way, that's federal jurisdiction, and the woman, Jalapara, she wouldn't let him explain that, Brian.
Okay, so let me explain something to you. For decades,
the situations are not remotely similar.
Okay, you don't even know what I'm going to say.
All right.
For decades, including I will go months back when Vindman took the stand, Republicans did the exact same thing. They dishonored the man. They wouldn't let him finish his answers. This is something that both sides of the aisle have been doing for decades. This isn't a Democratic thing. This isn't a Republican thing. Politicians on both sides of the aisle have the right to yield back. They have a right to not. Let me finish. You're giving me a weird look.
Huh?
This has been going on for decades.
Well, I can't look at you.
Well, you're giving me a weird look like I'm saying something that's not true. It is true. Republicans and Democrats. You hear me, what I just said? And Democrats have been doing the same thing in Congress for decades.
Brian,
let me finish.
If you can show me a video of that happening. You know how many times that happened? It happened 55 out of 67 times.
Okay, I will give you
they said.
Let me answer what you just said.
They said reclaiming my time 55 of 67 times.
Let me answer what you just said. In fact, I was watching a video yesterday that exactly what you're talking about. I could just think of a few in my head. When Al Sharpton took the stand and Matt Gaetz was questioning him, he did not let Al Sharpton. By the way, I am not defending Al Sharpton, but this was in Congress. Matt Gaetz, just look it up if you don't believe me. Matt Gaetz was grilling Al Sharpton. He called him an anti-Semite. He called him a racist. And when he asked Al Sharpton the questions on multiple times in that 3 or 4 minutes, he did not let Al Sharpton answer the questions, and he yielded back. Hold on.
Now, did every single person that was questioning Al Sharpton do that? Because yesterday,
did every single person?
Yes,
one person does it. No, people do it.
No, every single member of the House Judiciary Committee yesterday.
But Republicans don't do it. Just
I'm saying. All of them.
What
did.
are you saying?
Every single one of them did the exact same thing.
And Republicans have never done that.
They would accuse him of something. They wouldn't let him respond. When he tried to respond, they would say, "Reclaiming my time."
I will also say
every single one of them did that. And then Jerry Nadler wouldn't even let him have a 5-minute break.
I will also say that I watched the entire hearing. I don't know if you did or not, but I did.
Of course, I watched the hearing.
Okay,
Brian.
well, I don't know if you did or not. I watched the entire hearing. You had an appointment yesterday at 10 a.m. It was going on during 10 a.m.
No, it wasn't.
Okay, well, it was going on yesterday
I think
morning.
It started around.
I watched a replay of it.
12.
But anyway, the point I was trying to make, and it's always Democrats do it all, and Republicans are goody good two shoes. I'm trying to make the point once again, a non-biased opinion that it happens on both sides. But let's continue. Representative Sheila Jackson Lee. She is of Texas, also a Democrat. She asked Attorney General Barr about systemic racism. Sean, let's go ahead and play that clip, if I may. This is Representative Sheila.
No, that was systemic racism within the police department, Brian. It was not systemic racism overall.
So instead of commenting before the clip, how about we listen to the clip first, and then you can say whatever you want about it. This is Representative Sheila Jackson Lee of Texas asking Barr about systemic racism.
And so I ask you this question: does the Trump Justice Department seek to end systemic racism and racism in law enforcement? I just need a yes or no answer.
To the extent there is racism in any of our institutions in this country and the police, then obviously this administration will fully enforce this.
So you agree that there may be systemic racism?
To the extent, in where?
Let me continue my line of questioning.
I don't agree that there's systemic racism in the police department.
Specifically,
generally in this country.
All right, so there you go. He doesn't believe in systemic racism. By the way, I want to take phone calls on this issue.
Did you finish that?
I want to take...
Because at the end of that, he said, he quoted the same data that I quoted, and he said that you're actually a much higher risk of dying as an African-American at the hands of another African American than you are at the hands of a police
This
officer.
specific-
he quoted that specifically, Brian. You're taking it out of context. You're doing what Jake Tapper accused Jim Jordan of doing yesterday and requested an apology
Right,
for.
I'm taking it out of context. 702-257-5396. We played the audio. She asked about systemic racism and racism in general when it comes to law enforcement. I didn't take anything out of context, but we're taking your phone calls, 702-257-5396. Before we take the phone calls, I want to play one more piece of audio that we have. That's Representative Hank Johnson of Georgia. He questioned the AG Barr about Roger Stone, the sentencing recommendation. Have a listen to this.
General Barr, you're expecting the American people to believe that you did not do what Trump wanted you to do when you changed that sentencing recommendation and lowered it for Roger Stone. You think the American people don't understand that you were carrying out Trump's?
I had not discussed my sentencing recommendation with anyone at the White House or anyone outside the
President
department.
Wanted you to do. And that's what you did.
No.
Attorney General.
Let me ask you, do you think it's fair? Do you think it is fair for a 67-year-old man to be sent to prison for 7 to 9 years?
It was in accordance with the sentencing.
No, it was not.
Yes, it was. He's wrong. Based on the felonies that he was found guilty of, Attorney General Barr is wrong. Let's take your phone calls now, 702-257-5396. Why don't we start off with John? John, you are first up on the Vegas Take. What's going on?
Hey, what's up, John? Ready for Trump to win?
Hey, man, William Barr is the most dangerous man in America. William Barr is nothing more than Donald Trump's personal rump swab. He's not the top law enforcer in the country. He's there to do Donald Trump's dirty work. If you have any fondness for the Constitution, you will vote against Donald Trump come November, because if you vote for Donald Trump, there's going to be riots in the street. Plain and simple.
What, is that a threat?
The Constitution's under attack.
Is that a threat?
You must not let that happen.
Give us the election or face the wrath. I'll tell you this. If there's riots in the street, if there's a second Civil War, it's not going to last very long. And I'll leave it at that.
Hold on a second. Can I say one? You said if the economy didn't open up and that if Sisolak closed down the economy, there'd be riots on the streets. How is this any different? Was that a threat?
No. What he's saying is that if Donald Trump is reelected, people are going to riot. People are going to.
I have no idea if that's going to happen. I'm not going to riot.
Yeah, John, why are you saying that?
Oh, man, come on, J.D. And you're dead wrong to think it's not going to last very long. Look what's happening in Portland. Everybody will be mobilized. This William Barr clown, I'm a lawyer. He's a total fraud. He is totally tinkling all over the Constitution. It is absolutely pathetic what this man is trying to do.
Actually, he isn't. We had someone come on our show on Monday, and he told us that Portland police are literally leaving the streets empty. And these officers, they start inside the courthouse. They get coerced out there, and when they're coerced out there into inside the fence, barrier, whatever it is, then they get hit with lasers. They get hit with IEDs, projectiles.
You're changing the subject.
I'm not changing the subject. And John, the reason that they are there.
Complete fraud. William Barr, when asked point blank, if Trump loses, will you honor the results? And he said, if they clearly.
John, let me chime in. John, let me chime in if I may, and then we got to get to some other calls.
You're saying that he is not. He's not following the Constitution. No, the president has a right to deploy federal troops to protect federal property, and that's exactly what those troops are doing.
All right,
that's it.
Okay, so I'll respond.
And that goes directly by the Constitution.
If I can, I'll respond by saying it hasn't only been about federal property. But let me respond to John. I want to ask you a question. I didn't know you were an attorney, so I have to ask you one more question. As an attorney, if you had a chance to sit right next to Attorney General Barr, what would you say to him as an attorney yourself?
I would say, what happened to you, man? What happened? You know what you're doing is blatantly wrong. A first-year constitutional law student knows that you are tinkling all over the Constitution. You've lost all objectivity. You've become Donald Trump's personal rump swab. Shame on you.
Hey, John.
He's clearly, scholars were right, that William Barr is the worst attorney general in the history of the United States.
Well, I'm not going to argue.
End of story.
Okay, now you got to keep on. He was also the attorney general for another president. This wasn't. He's probably one of the most respected lawyers in the entire country. But if what you're saying is true, then Trump will lose the legal vote.
Okay, so let me respond
then every
to that.
single lawyer in the United States will likely vote against Trump.
I want to take other calls, but let me respond to what you just said.
Okay,
so
fine.
you just said Attorney General Barr, which you're right, by the way. He was the attorney general for another president.
He was.
So when people attack Dr. Fauci, and my response is, he was working in 4 other administrations. That argument doesn't work with you. But the defense of Attorney General Barr is, well, he worked for another administration. Fauci worked for 4 other administrations. You can't use that argument when it's convenient for your political narrative. 702-257-5396. Let's go to Ben. Ben, you're next on the Vegas Take. Ben, what's going on?
Hey, what's up, Ben?
How's it going, guys? So I didn't get a chance to watch the full hearings. I was wondering, did they ask Barr about the Lafayette Square incident?
As far as I know, they didn't, but I will double check on that, Ben, because I'm not 100% on that. I did watch the whole thing. I don't recall it. Boy,
No, they didn't ask that question.
Yeah, it sounds like a politician, Ben. I don't recall. That's what you do when you're talking to the police. Yeah, I don't recall, Ben. Bill Clinton. I don't recall ever having sexual relations with that woman. Ben, I appreciate the call, my friend. We'll try to get you an answer for that.
I did not have sexual relations.
That was terrible
with that woman.
Awful.
Miss Lewinsky.
That was an awful Bill Clinton
That was
impersonation.
You got to let me finish, Brad.
It was terrible.
That was fantastic.
All I heard,
that was way better than yours.
I heard 5 seconds.
Way better than yours.
Okay. I did not have sexual relations with that woman. I think that's better.
No, you sound like George Bush.
Okay. Well, I don't want
W. Bush.
I don't want to sound like either of them. 702-257-5396 is the number to call. Let's go to Christian. Christian is next on the Vegas Take. What's going on, Christian?
What's up, Christian?
Hi. I just had a response regarding the systematic racism clip that was played.
Yes, ma'am.
I feel like it's something that's been going on for decades. It's just not being televised. I feel like, of course, depending on different perspectives regarding it, of course, everybody has their own opinion regarding it. But I feel like unless you're an actual minority going through it, of course, you're experiencing it firsthand. So I feel like every time that subject comes up, whether it's to Barr or whoever may be, in Congress or the White House, I feel like it's always being around the bush, basically.
Yeah, listen, Christian, I agree.
Well, so what you're saying is then that people like myself and William Barr can't have opinions on it because we haven't experienced it. So how is that going to work then?
Oh, that's not what I said. And also, you are very aggressive. When I can already tell you're a Trump supporter. But never mind that. It's just that you don't have to be a minority. There's plenty of Caucasian people who are not minorities, that can see exactly where we're coming
Christian,
from.
Can I respond? Christian, can I respond? Obviously, I'm on your side. I am white. I don't know what it's like to be black in this country, but I will tell you this. I've been in the car with people who are black, good friends of mine, who are driving vehicles and have been pulled over for no reason. I've seen black people being followed in stores for no reason because people assume because of their skin color they're going to shoplift. Just because... and I understand where you're coming from, and I think, and this is just my opinion, and I think we agree on this, the people out there like the Attorney General Barr that believe that there is no systemic racism in society, it's either one of two things. Either they're lying for a political narrative, or,
Brian,
if I can finish.
Society and law enforcement are two different things. Stop conflating the two.
If I can
They're
finish,
not the same thing, Brian.
If I can finish. There are people out there in society that do not believe there is systemic racism anywhere. I'm not specifically talking about Attorney General Barr. Barr said there's no systemic racism in law enforcement.
Based on the data.
Not true. A black person is twice as more likely to get shot than a white person, and those are all the statistics that are out there. Christian, go ahead.
Yeah, but what's funny to me is that as soon as we bring up the subject about it, immediately he uses stats about, there's a higher chance of a black person killing a black person than cops. The problem that I have is we're using the cops. They're supposed to protect us, and we're seeing them as a figure to somebody where we call when we need help. It's kind of scary that we reach out to them in fear that now minorities might get injured. That's the problem. So using the black on black, it's not really something.
Well, it certainly has nothing to do with the way law enforcement treats minorities. I certainly agree with you there. Christian, I appreciate your phone call. Thank you very much.
Thanks for calling, Christian.
257-5396 is the number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation. All right, so I always give people a chance to call back if they're on topic or if they're not on topic.
Herb.
I will let Herb back on the line. Herb, hopefully we're on topic this time. Go ahead.
What's up, Herb?
All right. Well, even though other people are off topic, but go ahead. Listen.
it was an obvious plan by the Democrats yesterday going into that hearing not to let William Barr talk. They cut him off every time.
Yeah,
and
they
it
did.
was a plan in advance. And they referred to all the protesters as peaceful protesters. They never addressed the fact that there were those out there that were not peaceful.
Okay,
And
so let me
even
ask
though
you a question, Herb.
Even though they showed the video,
Let me ask you a
they
question,
still
Herb.
didn't-
I don't speak for Democrats. I'm a pretty logical, level-headed guy. There are protesters out there. There are rioters. There are a percentage of people out there that are bad actors. I certainly don't deny that, just as there were with the Open Up rallies. And there's no question. There is always going to be a percentage of people that are doing some bad things. With that being said, do you think only Democrats do these ploys in Congress? Or would you agree with me that on the other side of things, Republicans play the same political games? Would you agree with that? Or do you just think Democrats are bad and Republicans are good?
I remember the one you referred to when the the Florida senator was talking to Reverend Sharpton. I remember that hearing, and he did not let him have a chance to talk. But I got to tell you, that's one.
No, it's not
Republican
one.
that did that.
It's not just one, sir. With all due respect, I just named
You know,
one.
Brian, hey, if you can show me a situation like there was with William Barr,
That
where
was a systematic plan not to let him talk.
yeah, I agree, it was very clear to the American people. I mean, there was 4 different trending topics on Twitter
Okay,
with
so I'll tell you what I'll do.
300,000 plus replies, and all of them, I'm talking like 99.5%,
Here's
were
one
all
for you.
negative towards Democrats.
Here's one
which
for
I
you.
have never seen
I'll give
before.
you another one.
That's the first time in my life
I'll give
I've
you
ever
another
seen
one.
anything like that in my life.
And I can give you 20 of them tomorrow if you would
No,
like,
yeah,
JD.
no,
but
if
I'll
you
give you another.
if you could show me where
Sure.
where
I'll give you one right now.
where they're sitting in front
Sure.
of a group of 8 people,
Sure.
and
Sure.
every single one of them is
I'm
doing
gonna
the
try to answer-
exact same
if you will
thing,
allow me, I'll give
and
you an
not
answer.
letting the person
Okay.
talk after asking them a question,
Can I
or
answer?
accusing them of something.
All right.
I'll be shocked.
Sure. Hillary Clinton. It happened several years ago when she was in front of Congress. The Republicans grilled her. They wouldn't let her finish answering questions. Look it up if you don't
Yeah,
believe
you can
me.
show me.
Well, no, just look it up yourself. I'm not going to, treat you like a child. Look it up yourself.
Wait, you make me explain all my sources and talk about the gold
I
standard.
just told you.
Yeah,
I just told you.
okay,
Hillary Clinton. Look it up if you don't
talking
believe
about
me.
what?
Talking about her emails, talking about Benghazi. It happened on several occasions with Hillary Clinton. I watched it all. Watch it for yourself if you don't believe me. The same thing Republicans did. And by the way, just because I bring up one instance doesn't mean it only happened one time. JD was talking about it. The only point I try to make, which is what I try to make on this show every day, and I'm sick of the political.
No, all you
Hold on,
try
let
to
me
do-
finish.
all you
Let
try
me
to do
finish.
is
Let
say-
me finish.
Okay, Brian,
Let me
finish.
finish. Okay, I'm sick of the political divide in this country. Both parties do it. It happened. Let me finish. I can't even get a point across. It happens with Democrats. It happens with Republicans. It happened with Benghazi. It happened with everybody associated with Benghazi in those hearings in Congress. And yes, it happened yesterday. It happens on both sides
Brian,
of the aisle.
what you try to do is say, yes, Democrats did this, but
it happens on both
and it
sides.
was bad, but Republicans do that too, so it's all equal.
Okay, well, here's what I want you to do, JD.
You give Democrats
I give
the
facts.
benefit of the doubt every single time.
No, what are you talking about?
You take a small sample
All right.
size on the other side, and you apply them, and you
okay.
make them equal, even though they're not.
Okay, so
you do that because you have a bias against Republicans and towards Democrats.
Let me know when I can
and
talk.
that's fine.
Okay, another ignorant statement that is not factually accurate that JD just made on the Vegas take. I just said 5 times in the last 30 minutes, yes, the Democrats played political games yesterday. It doesn't mean I like Attorney General Barr. Doesn't mean some of the questions they asked weren't credible. I just admitted that Democrats do it. All I'm simply saying, which right-wing buffoons cannot agree on, that's why I call them buffoons, is it happens on the other side of the aisle as well. October 22nd, 2015. I will even baby all of you people with the date. That is when the Clinton-Benghazi hearings happened. The exact same thing happened. If you don't believe me and you think Brian's being biased, even though I just agreed that Democrats and Republicans do it, look it up for yourself. Stop being a clown. Let's take one more phone call at 257-5396. Why don't we go to Joe? Joe, you're next on the Vegas Take. What's up?
Hey, what's up, Joe?
Well, Brian, the major difference is that when Republicans do it, you would see it across every media outlet across this country. When Democrats do it, we have to find it out through alternative sources. We have to hear it on
not true,
like myself.
Radio. We have to hear it from all sorts of other sources other than the mainstream media. Because
not true.
The mainstream media has a left-wing bias.
First of all, not true. I don't have a left-wing bias. I just said Democrats.
Well, I'm not speaking about.
He said mainstream media does.
Well,
the mainstream media.
I don't speak
You're
for
on talk radio, my
I
man.
don't. Well,
Don't
you know
that?
what? 99.9% of shows on the radio are conservative shows.
Yes, you are correct about that. And this is the one outlet that the left is seeking to destroy with its.
Okay. Right.
Are you going to say that's not true?
You know what? You can watch something called OAN. You can watch something, called Fox News. There are other outlets out there that cover it, so I completely disagree with you. 7:00. Here's what we're going to do. We got to take a break. We got to take a break.
Fox News, Hannity, Ingram, and Tucker Carlson, they broke the record again for viewership.
Okay, who cares? I don't give a crap. So what?
No, it's very indicative of I believe what's going to happen in November. That's why I bring it up.
I think it's indicative of there are a lot of people out there that are fools. Laura Ingraham is an evil, racist witch. Tucker Carlson is a white supremacist. So if you would like to give them credit for viewership, why don't we give Paris Hilton credit for all the sex videos that she's done and all the views that she got too? I'm not in the business of giving people credit for how many fans they have or how many views they have or the ratings they have. Let me be very clear before we go to break. Tucker Carlson and Laura Ingraham are some of the most disgusting people on the planet. And I am not going to sit here and say, wow, they got so many views last night. So what?